anybody's in here. Hello? Hello? Is anybody there? Anybody at all? I'm all by myself. Anybody? Hello? No comments. Are there any viewers? Are there any viewers? I don't know what's happening. Are there any viewers? Hello? There they come. Hi, guys. I was waiting for the comments to start popping up, but they took forever, so they're all here. Bob and Janet left, so I'm going to pretend to do the follow-up by myself because my friends left me. They tend to do that. My friends tend to go get drinks at places close and then leave me here by myself. So I'm going to go ahead and, hey, there's a friend. Hello, friend.
Should I have stayed gone?
No, man, this one came back.
Joel, you're right. He doesn't need us.
Is anybody here? Hello? Hello?
I did that for a while because there was nothing coming through. Then I was starting to mess over here.
Look at that. There's a bunch of people.
They do have bladder issues.
It is shocking that we're on time.
I know.
And yes,
well, it's because we have a hard out. And I forgot to ask you.
That's better than a hard on.
Off air, what your hard out is for. And I don't know if it's appropriate to ask you on air.
It'll be a
Seems
mystery.
like it's not. Seems like it's not.
It'll be a mystery.
She's auditioning for a true crime podcast with two straight white guys.
Oh, makes sense. Let me buzz through this.
She's like, I need new friends. They're all saying hi to me. You don't need to buzz through the comments.
Yeah,
it's all
not
saying hi to me.
It's all about our buddy.
Just reading through all the hellos. Hey guys, make sure you smash that like button.
Hit the dislike.
You can hit the dislike. It all reads the same for the algorithm.
Yep, it does.
Ooh,
I say the algorithm like I give like we make any money off the 500 people that watch the YouTube channel. But I do want to
look. I started to do it because I was trying to figure out if there's anybody in here or not.
Oh no!
What happened?
Nothing. I just
Bob's got the volume.
I gotta open the chat over here in case I gotta do any moderating. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes I gotta moderate the chat.
I don't know what you do.
Where did everything go? There it is.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
I know what I'm
Devin
doing.
says hi, Bobbert, and hi, Janet.
But not hi, Zach.
What the fuck, Devin?
No, I'm assuming that Devin already said hi to you, and that's.
I know she said ahoy, but what the fuck, Devin?
Yeah. Oh man, this is not good.
Listen, there's not many listeners I can yell at. I feel like I have earned the right to yell at that one.
Yep. And Devin,
Okay.
listen.
Why?
I'm loving me some Devin and Danielle if she's in here, and JJ because I owe them all shirts, and she gave me their shirt sizes and said, "Give them to Zach because we're going to see Zach next week, so I don't have to ship those."
Mhm.
I see.
So once again, thank you, Zach.
Today's episode is sponsored by Celsius Live Fit. It's not. I wish it was. I think somebody said that I break it. What you don't know is that I almost broke everything in here just a little bit ago with my electric fly killer. But I think I got the fly because I haven't seen it since then.
Don't say fly killer. It's a fly sleeper.
Oh.
I'm pretty sure it kills them.
Shh, sleep.
Zapper.
It literally electrocutes them.
Ooh, fly zapper like zap.
Like I thought he was going to zap with it.
Yeah, he did seem like he was going to zap.
I am in Michigan. Went. Those are gross. What are gross? Oh, what the Celsius? No, they're delicious. Actually, this is not my favorite. This is the last flavor I had left, which is the kiwi guava. Not my favorite.
What's a guava?
Too sweet?
No, too bitter. I like the sweet ones.
Live
I
and
like
learn.
the peach vibe. Yeah, it's precisely the opposite of what you thought was going on, Jana.
Yeah, my bad.
Next to the bug bite thing. Okay, we're going to start here pretty quick because Janet does have to be totally out of here by 6:10.
Okay, Kristen, you're in Michigan, but you're not anywhere near.
6:10. I said 10:26.
So
I did not say 6. 6:10 would just be our normal.
10 till
roughly our
6.
Here we go.
All right. Well, listen, I was trying to do math in my head because it's 8 o'clock here, so
Got it.
we missed it by 2 hours already.
It's
my time.
Got it. That doesn't
Georgia
explain it, but
Mountains.
got it.
The cats eat flies. Our dogs eat when Becky swats them with a fly swatter. The dogs eat them off the ground, which I think is gross. The flies.
It's protein, as they say on all of those survival shows.
Yeah. Oh, did you see Rena? Rena says that
Thank
your
you, Rena.
You know what's
blouse
funny is
beautiful.
she just said that your blouse is beautiful. Then I looked at your shirt and I was like, oh, she wearing a doily? What has she got on?
More
Does
or
anybody
less.
like my
I would say
t-shirt?
30% of my clothes look like doilies.
Okay.
Do they?
I think
That's
so.
That's a good way. That's
Some
a
version,
that's-
some version of embroidery or like, yeah,
I
something
just
like
want
that.
to point out the skillful interviewing
Knit.
skills that I have by coming back with. Do they?
Are they?
That's a way to
Take a note, everybody. That's the
learn
way
that.
to do it.
Learn that in chapter 2 of the improv book. Learn that right there. You just say,
Yep.
"Do they?" Stupid idiot. Oh, I feel like this is froze up.
Do I get to read ever? Are we going to start?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like there's something. Are we just sitting here and bullshit for a minute?
Janet's got to go.
Oh yeah.
We're going to have a 15-minute
I'm gonna hit
episode
record,
because you want to
should I?
bullshit.
Listen, all that means is the longer I delay here is the shorter this episode is the less editing that I have to do. Because as you both know, I already have an hour and 20 minutes to do because my ass can't stop talking.
Uh-huh. Oh, boy.
Okay. All right. So yeah, I guess we hit record now. That's the thing we're gonna do.
Sure.
Hit it.
Done.
By the way, last week our recorded button pushing was almost perfectly synced. Our clap
Oh,
when
yeah?
I put the tracks together, the claps were right there.
Feels good. Feels
Yeah.
good. This could be another one.
Here we go. Well, I mean, the button pushing thing already happened, but here we go.
Right.
1, 2, 3. Nailed it.
Oh,
Nailed it. Yeah, that felt real
Yeah.
good. Real good. All right. Let's get a little room tone. Feels like enough.
great.
I like that as soon as you said room tone, that quail just squealed.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure it didn't come through, and I don't know if
Did
anybody
not
heard
hear
They
it.
don't
But
come through in
would've.
here, but when I record ads, if you listen to the ads, you will almost every time, like the ads that I read,
Uh-huh.
you will almost every time hear quail squawking in the background. because
Really?
Yeah.
That gives me incentive to listen for sure.
It's super faint, but I've been recording. I told you about that microphone for my desk to do
Yep.
the ads because I
Yeah.
write the copy there, and then I just read them right there. But this room is soundproof much better than
I gotta
out
get
there.
that.
Yeah,
Let
I
you
know.
feel stupid.
I loved the gesture though. It was definitely we all knew what that meant.
It paid off.
Yeah.
Devin said that her and JJ clap with us when we do it. I think everybody
love
should.
that.
Next week when we say 1, 2, 3 clap, I want everybody to fill with the clap emoji in the.
And then the news will be like a 2.3 earthquake shook the United States simultaneously.
Did it? See, I'm doing that thing.
Great
right?
interview.
Yeah.
Great interview
Yeah.
style.
You know, I teach broadcast journalism.
Nicole says R.I.P. Zach's patience.
that takes
rest
comment
in
of the
peace,
week so
buddy.
far.
Rest in peace.
All right, Zach, are you ready to get serious?
Yeah.
Why? How am I the adult?
Here we go.
Ahoy, friends. Thank you for tuning in to Truth and Justice. You are listening to the Friday Follow-Up for August 18th. Let's try that whole thing over again. My voice sounded funny. Ahoy, friends. Thank you for tuning in to Truth and Justice. You are listening to the Friday Follow-Up for August 18th. This week we dove into the missing persons case of Caden Black out of Wrightsville, Pennsylvania. And we heard from Caden's mother, Kara, about his last known actions. It's pretty obvious by now that I'm back in studio with Bob and Janet. This is another episode that raised a lot of questions and brought up some thoughts. But before we get into that, Bob, nope.
I'm just going to say, I have a note. Raised a lot of questions and brought up
Some theories is what I wrote.
some thoughts.
Brought up some theories is what I wrote. But you know what? I don't give a shit anymore. It's hard. It's hard. This episode raised a lot of questions and brought up some theories. But before we get into that, Bob, do you have any housekeeping notes to get into?
I sure do, Zach. It was a great transition.
I don't know. I'm just gonna. I think I'm just done. I think I'm retiring.
That was
Please
just
don't.
It was fine, but it was just something about it was like brought up a lot of questions
And some thought.
and some thoughts.
You know what? It didn't go that way. That's not even what I wrote. That's the worst part. That I freestyled.
All
and
right,
it fell.
here we go. Wondering like why can't I see the screen? Look at that. I can see just fine now. All right, yes, we have kind of a big housekeeping thing going on. I'm struggling to explain this because it's hard to explain where we're going from here. But here's the thing. So when we started the season, I keep mentioning that I've learned a lot from this season. And one of the things that I've learned, and I said this a few weeks ago, was that a lot of the stats that we have about missing persons they're not inaccurate, but they're misleading. There's 600,000 children reported missing every year. So it seemed like we're going to walk into like there's tons of every day all these cases of missing kids when those statistics of a large portion of them are like teen runaways that are generally in a lot of cases are found the next, the report goes out, they're found an hour later. The report goes out, they're found the next day. Some of them are people that have just left. There's a lot of them that are like custodial parent issues. So that was kind of struggle number one as we started with this was we do get a ton of cases submitted to us all the time, but you'd be shocked how many of them. And as I mentioned last week, Erica Cantor has been helping like put us in contact. It's like the submission comes in, we start doing a little research, reach out, and they're like, oh, we found them. It happens all the time, constantly. Which is good. So that was kind of one thing that's been a bit of a struggle, but we've been working through that as it was. But here's the bigger struggle. As I've told you guys in the last couple of weeks, what's been really heartwarming for me is that all of you, even though we're doing something so different, continue to tune in every week. I can see on the numbers that the number of people that are listening to the episodes are right. They're actually a little higher than normal. So that's good. From a business standpoint, I guess. But here's my concern, and Jan and I talked about this kind of at length this weekend as I was kind of trying to decide what to do from here, is we're not getting any engagement. Like I can see the numbers that people are listening, but then there's nothing. For example, Sunday's episode dropped. This case I think is super, super interesting. It's complex. It's something that I think that we can help put the word out in. And a lot of you guys are doing that stuff. But there was like 0 posts on the fan page about it, which is odd. Our moderators are generally having to deal with hundreds of posts a day. And that's where my big concern came in, is that over these years, we have worked very hard to build up an audience of good people like you that want to engage and help and want to investigate and want to dig into things. And this season, the way we're doing this is not conducive to that. And I feel like our resource of our audience isn't really being tapped into because, like this case, we've got a ton of questions here and a lot of ideas and theories, but we can only really go so far with it because it's an open case. We got to be careful about what we're saying or we're talking about because we can't be out like even implying that we're accusing someone of committing a crime. So it's put us in this conundrum. And I decided this weekend that we need to make a change, that this is not the way to do this. I don't think it's really fair to you guys for me to putting out constant episodes for where you guys are wanting to engage and help, and there's not much for you to engage and help with. And if there's no engagement at some point, there's going to become boredom, and we just don't want that. It seems like the format of this season has been a mistake on my part. Seemed like a good idea, but I can see this not working, especially when I look through my DMs and my emails and all the messages. The theme is very much the same with 95% of them, and this is heartbreaking. I don't know how many more mothers I can listen to that have had their hearts broken. And are you okay? This must be very heartbreaking for you. And of course it is. It's tough. As I've mentioned many times, it is certainly not the emotional break that, I thought it would be. So I'm admitting at this point that this was, it wasn't as good of an idea as it seemed like it was, which leads us to, okay, now what? You guys, I think most of you know this, but if you don't, it's not like we can say, okay, well, let's just do another wrongful conviction and then start Sunday and start doing a wrongful conviction case. There is, we do the investigation in real time, but even with that, it takes months of finding the right case, getting the case documents, doing initial interviews, doing a pre-screening of a case, deciding it's the right one, getting everything organized, and then moving forward with the season. That takes time. So it's not something that I can just start doing on Sunday. So this is where we're at right now. And I'm hoping that you'll all continue to bear with me through this process. I'm not going to scrap the idea of the missing persons cases because I made a promise at the beginning of the season that we're going to highlight one case from every state. And I intend to keep that promise. The way that we're going to do that is going to be a little different. So however we end up doing, whatever we're doing for episodes in this kind of in between time before we get to the next season, I'm going to, in one way or another, introduce a missing persons case from every state as we move along. So there may be a segment where it's, this week's missing persons case comes from fill in the blank state. Here's some basic details of the case, and here's the way you can help. Here's flyers and stuff, and we'll put that stuff out. So we'll get the basic details out without, having to go through the kind of emotional trauma. I was talking to Josh Hallmark the other day about this, because as it's been a struggle, and he shared a term with me that I'd never heard. For those who don't know, Josh Hallmark is the host of True Crime Bullshit and very good friend of mine,
and a very good friend of mine.
Yeah, he doesn't like Zach that much. I'm just kidding.
I just wanted to chime in,
but he said it's empathy fatigue is the term that he put in, because he's had some experience in some missing persons cases too, and it was like it just hit right on the head, and that's exactly what it is. Is you hear these people and your heart just breaks for them, and you want to do something, and you realize there's not much that you can do, and it's painful. So that's kind of what I'm feeling. It sounds like that's what a lot of you guys are feeling. So we're going to fulfill that promise to at least highlight a missing persons case from everywhere, every state, as we move along. That's thing one. Thing two, in the meantime, we've got to figure out what to do while we pick a case. We have a team of extremely talented researchers from all different walks of life, everything from PIs to attorneys to literally professional researchers that go through our case submissions and search out cases. They have been fully activated as of this weekend. They are on the hunt to find our next big case. They're also on the hunt to find shorter cases, maybe cases that are, we have some contacts with some innocence projects around the country, cases where maybe they're in the middle of litigation, but they would love to have the story highlighted over a few episodes, like we've kind of did with like Pablo Velez and George Powell, things like that. So they're working on those too. Actually, interestingly, an hour before we sat down here, a friend, a longtime listener and good friend of mine from the UK reached out to me and just said, Bob, there's this case. It's from Scotland. That's a super interesting wrongful conviction case. He needs help. He needs some exposure. And so that's one that I may put on a cover, something where we can put out, we can do some good. As you guys know, our number one mission is to do good, do something good every time that we come on the air. And also to give you guys who are all chomping at the bit to investigate and discuss and hypothesize, to give you something to work with, to keep your skills sharp, because that's my biggest fear, is to lose this army of investigators that you all are, because we're not giving you things to investigate. So that's coming. So in the meantime, what I'm going to ask for you is to, I hate saying this because I say it too much, but bear with us. We are hard at work getting us to the point where we're ready to start a new full long form season. We want to make sure we have the perfect case, and we have everything we need to do that. In the meantime, we're going to give you some weeks maybe an interview with somebody interesting in the true crime space. Some weeks maybe about, there could be about a missing persons case that I think really is something we need to do. It's kind of liberating for me a little bit to know, like, every week we can come in and whatever is on topic, on mind, that we think is important, to put something together and put it out for you guys as we move forward.
And there
Now,
might be an opportunity for us to spend more time on a specific case if we see that there is a lot of engagement, or we do have more opportunities to dig into something that, we can respond to that more on the fly, and take a little extra time.
Yeah, it's exactly right. Because we don't need to be like, well, the format is one episode each case. If we do something about a case or an interview and there's a bunch of questions about it, or there's more to further dig into it, we'll do another episode about it. So we're going to be really kind of dynamic as we move forward. Our first step is this Sunday, or for me as a producer and writer and host and editor of the podcast. It's like, now what do we do this Sunday? So what we're going to do this Sunday is, last week I told you guys that for Patreon, I'm going to do an episode by episode breakdown of the prosecutor's coverage of the Adnan Syed case. And there's a ton of people that are super excited about that. And there's some people that are just like, it's been done to death. So this is what we're going to do. This Sunday's episode is going to be the first episode in that series. And I'm going to drop that ad-free in Patreon and then on our normal feed here. So everybody can listen to, get an idea of what the format's kind of be, the types of things that we're talking about, to see if that's something that you would be interested in hearing. And also, I think I tried to, as I told Zach and Janet, somehow it took me an hour and 20 minutes to recap a 56-minute episode. So you can imagine there's a lot to what I'm doing. And it's because in this first episode, I want to put out and really explain the fundamental differences in how we have looked at the case and how the prosecutors are both approaching the case and approaching their production of the podcast about the case. The intent is not to be mean or negative towards the prosecutors. That's not it at all. It's just, this is a case that I feel very strongly about. I feel like we've done a really good job investigating, and so have some other great minds out there, much smarter than me. And they've kind of changed the narrative to where they're really putting out what seems like a very fact-based approach that's making people believe that Adnan Syed is guilty. I disagree, and I'm explaining why. So anyway, Sunday's episode is going to be episode 1 of that series. And then after that, the rest of that series is going to live on Patreon. And by doing that, if you're someone who's like, I don't know that case, I don't give a shit about that case, you only have to hear one episode about it, and then we'll be back to business as usual, or whatever our new usual is the following week. If you're someone who's like, I know everything about that case and I'm sick of talking about it, same story. You don't have to hear about it anymore. If you're somebody that's like, I am fully hooked and I want to hear more and more about the Adnan Syed case, you have a place to go do that over on our Patreon. And maybe down the road, once we finish the series, which is probably going to take months. I mean, there's like, if it's 20 episodes, we're talking, 20 weeks. That's 4 or 5 months worth of episodes to put out about it. There may be a time where we may take those episodes and then air them on our main feed later. But it would be obviously well after the fact. So I can't guarantee that. Just depends on how things shake out. If we have another case ready to go, then we're just going to move on. If we kind of get to a point where we're not ready to start a new case, but I need to start doing like some traveling and prepping for a new case, that may be a time we may move some of those episodes and air them on the public feed. And for our patrons, if we do that, we'll also put something else out for you guys special on Patreon too, because it's not fair for you guys to pay to hear them and then 4 months later they're free on the other feed and you've already heard them. So all that being said,
well, before we go on, let me jump in here. You brought me in as the voice of the listener, so I know I'm speaking for myself, but I'm also speaking for a ton of listeners right now. I will go out and say thank you for doing what you've done with this season. I know this season was tough. It was tougher on all of us than we realized it was going to be. We knew it was a large undertaking. Even me being inside and being part of it, we knew it was a large undertaking, but we knew it was coming from a good place. And I think all the listeners understand that it's coming from a good place. And truly, I don't think any of us realized the toll it would take on all of us to try to go through this season. So just from all of us right now, a heartfelt thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well said, Zach.
Yeah. And all of you in the chat too. There's a lot of support in the YouTube chat right now. So I want to move on because I do want to talk about this case, but I want to lay all that out there for you guys. Again, we love you all and appreciate all of your support on this. And also because of this kind of very dynamic format we're going to have kind of moving forward, if you've got a case or something or a person you would love to hear interviewed, or a case like, hey, could you do a couple episodes on this case or anything like that, shoot us a message. Like, we're very open right now to covering anything. My goal is to put out every week content that is useful and interesting to you, that we can do some good work with. So we're very open to that, and I hope you guys listen on Sunday. It's definitely a different format than what you've heard in a long time. I mean, I went back for that series old school, where I took, and I'm going to burn through yellow notebooks. I went through literally a half of a yellow notebook taking notes on their first episode. But then I just sit down and just get my notebook out and just go.
So there are some folks who maybe are fully committed in their podcast listening time and are wondering, it sounds to me, based on what you've described, that you don't have to listen to the episode in question from the other podcasts. Absolutely, you will say, this was posited here, this is my response to it here, and you can just listen to your episode.
Yes, that's exactly right. So, and what you'll hear me say on Sunday, and I'll say it now too, is if you have the time, I would encourage you to go listen to them. I don't necessarily want you to take my word for it, but I can also tell you, as the one that's doing it, it is my goal to be as fair and honest about the whole thing as possible. So I'm like breaking down, they said this, especially like areas of contention, right? So, Brett said this about this, and here's the documentation about that subject, and this is why I disagree with him. So yeah, you could certainly just listen to our coverage of it, and you'll get all the information you need. But if you're a person that wants to verify that what I'm saying they said is what they said, then you can absolutely go and listen to it. But it's not required. You won't be lost if you only listen to our stuff.
Okay. I wanted to throw in there, too, when we're talking about the sort of grab bag possibilities of some cool upcoming episodes. For those of you who there were some great suggestions. I'll go look through my notes as well. But during the Pinion Pines case, there were some great suggestions from folks who really had great, interesting, thoughtful, detail-oriented questions about certain legalities and about certain approaches to wrongful convictions, that this would also be a great opportunity for us to be able to, we can reference back to that case, but dig into some of the great, I like, just off the top of my head, I feel like Sarah and Kate always have really great big picture questions, and I don't think we were able to get to some of those because we would have needed a legal expert. If you remember what you wanted to hear, again, I'll go back through stuff, but it will be super helpful for you to send that along to Bob as well, because this could be a great opportunity to do that. Yeah,
and as we had mentioned, then I actually talked to him today. I could maybe get Colin Miller to come on and explain some of that, because I let him know that I'm going to be doing this with the case. I didn't want them to hear about that, like, hey, you're doing another stuff on the Anon case you didn't tell us. So we chatted a little bit, and he offered to help in any way that I may need. But anyway, so he may be able to come on and do that. And with that, thank both of you for your support. Everybody in the chat. So many people are throwing up super chats and I love you guys all. You truly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for all of your support. That said, Janet has 22 minutes before
I
she
could
has
always
to
walk
go.
away while the conversation's happening.
You have the questions, so let's
So
zip
do
it.
you, my friend.
Yeah.
So do you.
Let's zip through these questions as quickly as we can.
Let's do it. Well, first of all, before we get into the questions, I would love to hear from Zach about what he thought about this episode. This is another heartbreaker. We've said it. It's true. My heart goes out to Kara, and thank her so much for sharing with us about Caden. But did anything come up for you, Zach, while you were listening?
So I had something big jump out to me. I don't know if it's anything, but I really came to the conclusion that I'm curious if Caden had a TBI, a traumatic brain injury.
Mm-hmm.
It's
from the boxing.
From the box. It could be from anything, but we know that he was boxing. We know that he was training to box.
Yeah.
And then you start to hear some of the things that she's saying. She's talking about him not seeming like the same person, like seeming different.
Mm-hmm.
And TBIs can cause personality change, even if it's slight, even if it's like just in a momentary moment. A momentary moment, that's a good one. But even if it's just for that moment, it can change you. Your behavior changes, your emotions change. You can be perceived as just being off.
Yeah.
The other thing that comes up is like the little bit of confusion, the mental haze and the fog that you see. So we have the moment where he talks about the RV, or where she's talking about the RV and not knowing, not remembering the story about the RV and his brother and how they were giggling about it. And then on top of that, the other thing that really caught me is she talks about him calling the gym to see what time open gym is. But through this conversation, she's said it multiple times that he's a gym rat. He's going to the gym every day.
Oh, that's a really good point.
He's physically changing.
Yes.
He would know what time open gym is.
Yeah.
If he's going to open gym every day, he would know what time open gym is. So he's calling to see what time open gym is, which kind of, again, leads me to that possibility that maybe he's got a concussion. Maybe he's something along that line.
That's a huge catch that he didn't know what time the open gym was.
And I just feel, I know that seems like a very small thing, but if you're going all the time, as she says he is, you would know what time open gym is. And there's another thing that falls that is she talks about that, like, he's clearly gone through a physical change, right? So that means he is going to the gym a lot.
Right.
You don't go through a physical change like that on going once a week or every once in a while. You have to have repeated time in the gym to have a physical overall change. Regardless, I know that there was a comment maybe about steroids. That doesn't matter. You still have to put in the time to get big.
Right.
So it's something that's really jumped out to me was that idea that maybe he had a traumatic brain injury.
Yeah, and that could play into a lot of, because the one thing for me is it doesn't seem to me that he just wandered off and got lost. Because what I found very intriguing about this case is the fact that there are no leads. There is not a single person that saw him, not a single person that talked to him, not a single. It was just like he just poof, vanished. Somebody, if he had been like confused and wandered away or something, he would have turned up somewhere. Somebody would have seen him. It seems like it's not absolutely true. There are certainly circumstances where that wouldn't be the case, but if you're on the right track and there's if it's altered his personality because of a traumatic brain injury, that could open up a whole new floodgate of, you've got this guy that has this funny personality and all that. Well, maybe all of a sudden it's not so funny. Maybe that increases the odds of some kind of conflict.
Yes.
That led to his
and that's part, that is part of that personality changes. There can be irritation. There can be things like that. There could be just sheer confusion, like the whole cell phone thing. He could have left it somewhere and went for one of these runs that his mom talked about. And, and the possibility that she brought up about him maybe getting hit and something happened to him.
Yeah.
Those are all, viable off of this TBI idea
for sure.
Concept.
Yeah. Great catch. Great work.
Yeah. It looks like a lot of people in the chat, that's your trick. A lot of people kind of are hearing that for the first time and going, oh, wow. Either from personal experience or just some working knowledge of it, who maybe didn't necessarily think of that before. And I do want to shout out Kate for asking similar questions in the follow-up. That was not something that occurred to me. I was fixating on the idea of running at night because that does feel like a big risk factor to me. And I'm I really agree. I mean, I think that's such an interesting theory. And I'm so, us, the first thing we want to do now is go back to Kara and say, have you had this conversation? What's happening? And then kind of dig
and I
in.
will. Yeah.
So,
And-
yeah.
And it compounds, right? So she already said that he was the captain of the football team.
Mhm.
All right. So he's played football. He's played football for probably the majority of his life if he's the captain of the football team.
Yeah.
For varsity.
Just known for head injuries.
So there's head injuries. That doesn't mean they're known, but every
Mm-hmm.
time you get a concussion, it becomes exponentially worse for you.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's so many things. There's a possibility. I played football my entire life. I know you've played football. I've never been diagnosed with a concussion, but I can almost guarantee that I've had them.
Yeah.
And I bet you feel the same way.
Yeah, for sure. I was diagnosed with one from
Okay.
football, but I'm sure I had more.
So, and they become exponentially worse every time. So if he got one boxing and he's already had a couple, I mean, there's a lot that can build there.
Yeah, that's a good
Absolutely.
point.
Well, let's talk about the circumstances surrounding Saturday, because there were a lot of questions that came in about that. I'm going to start with Jill, who says, I feel like there was a big black hole of information from Saturday when he went missing. He was seen by a few people. What time? How did he see them? How did he see his dad? Drive or walk there? What was the time when he had no further communication with anyone? Walk me through step by step his day on Saturday. And what gym is he part of? My gym app, LA Fitness, tracks my location. And Jill, I also brought up some other questions, but I wanted to shout out some other folks who had written in with some more. So we'll start with that. I mean, that's a lot of stuff. I don't know that we know the answers to all of that.
Yeah, and I don't, because the way that Kara made it sound to me was, it seemed like the Fausts are the one that maybe have answers to most of those questions, other than his dad, who did see him on. I think she said she saw him on Saturday. It just sounded like, Saturday was a normal day. So we know what'd she say, was around 6:30 when he called the gym, or somewhere, or the
I do believe that's right.
6:30 or 7, something like that, where he wouldn't have had time to get there. I don't know the answer to most of those questions. The impression I got, which may have been just me filling in blanks, was in my own mind, was that the interactions with his dad were prior to that the reason that, she pointed out that the call to the open gym was because that was kind of the last known contact that they had with him. But so, yeah, I don't know. And then I think they also, investigators too, seem to jump past that because of the fact that his phone location put him in the house all the way through Sunday morning. So maybe they weren't particularly curious about where he was on Saturday, because they think, at least they know where he was until Sunday. But but victimology would be, figuring out all those movements on Saturday would be important, I think.
Yeah, I'm still not clear, and I want to shout out Valeria and Michelle for having a lot of questions surrounding that cell phone and understanding. Are we talking about usage? Are we talking about known usage? Or are we talking about apps that are talking to the Wi-Fi in some sense, where that doesn't necessarily tell us if he's with his phone anyway?
No, so that was one of the things that is also very, very perplexing about this case. From the way I understand it, they could tell that the phone was connected to the Wi-Fi because there was apps like Snapchat that was running in the background, and through the app they could tell that the phone was connected to the Wi-Fi at the house. I don't necessarily think that means that he was using the phone. In fact, I think she said there was no contact, because we talked some before the interview, we talked some off the record in the middle of the interview, so I don't know where everything pieced together or what all you guys heard. But I believe there was no activity on his phone, as far as like calls or texts or anything on Sunday. It was just that the apps showed, through the cloning of the phone, they were able to get into the apps and see that at 9:28 a.m. the phone was still connected to the house Wi-Fi, and then the phone died. So I don't think I don't think that means that he was using the phone.
Yeah. Lauren asked if anyone saw him after he deposited the check into his account, and if there's any video footage of any of that. Robin also asked any local Ring video, for example, from neighbors, to see if they looked to see that whether he left the house. I mean, these are key questions that, of course, our listeners are coming up with.
Yeah, and I believe they did check Ring cameras or anything around the neighborhood and didn't, because she was telling me when I first started talking to her that like it was like they checked cameras, street cameras, like does it like to see him, and like nobody ever sees him anywhere after that. As far as somebody seeing him after depositing the check, yeah, because he deposited the check on, I thought she said Friday is when he deposited his paycheck.
That's what I remember as well.
Yeah, so that was Friday. They have the bank records to confirm that. They have the receipt from him doing that to confirm that. And it was Saturday, the next day, that his dad saw him, and I believe the Faust saw him as well on Saturday, because that's what they said when they reported missing was we realized that we hadn't seen him since Saturday. So they said they had seen him on Saturday.
Okay. Well, Caroline asked, has Caden's mom talked to his friend Ethan directly or only through his dad, Chris?
I don't know.
Sarah says, do we know how many people live at the friend's house? Did Caden have his own room? Sounded like a smaller house, so it might seem a little odd not to notice that he was gone for that period of time. And did anybody else in the house try to contact him? That, a lot of questions around, as you would predict, the Fausts, just because of the circumstances.
Yeah, that's the whole kind of bugaboo with this whole thing is it is kind of a small house. I believe it's a 3-bedroom house, and I believe that he had his own bedroom. I think it was just, the parents had a room, Ethan had a room, and Caden had a room. But he did have his own bedroom there. But it was a small house, and she had told me that there was like one of the doors you couldn't go through because they had like a ramp or something for like a handicapped dog. So there was only one door in and out of the house, and you kind of had to walk through the house to get to it. And that was the thing that everybody was so perplexed about, was that, Chris Faust said that he was awake and up and in the kitchen at 6 a.m. and was around all day. In order for Caden to leave, he would have to walk right through the living room and kitchen and stuff to go out of there. And so the thought was he must have left in the middle of the night. He must have left the night before. But then they see, well, his phone was connected to the Wi-Fi until it died at 9:28, which wouldn't be that odd, except for the phone's not in the house. At least nobody has found the phone in the house yet.
And Teresa's just looking for that clarification. Teresa in the chat is just wanting to clarify. So they can tell from cloning the phone that it was the battery that died, not that the phone had been turned off.
I'm speaking only from what Kara told me and from what I short Google search. It sounds like yes. I've never ever heard of this before, so I have no depth of knowledge to speak on it other than those two things. But that was the understanding for that's what Kara understood to happen. I did look up like can they clone phones and through apps and stuff, and it seems like yes. I don't, as far as know that the battery died, I don't know. That's what Kara said. I don't know if that's accurate. But yeah, but that's where the big confusion comes in, and I know a lot of your wheels are turning right now and are maybe pointing fingers in your head about what that might mean. But it could mean it could mean a lot of things. For like Chris to say, well, I was up in the living room or in the house the whole day and I never saw him leave his room. Well, when someone says they were somewhere a whole day, surely we don't think that he went the entire day without ever going to the bathroom. You know what I mean? So like being there the whole day doesn't mean he was sitting in the kitchen the whole day. There's certainly circumstances where he could, be out of the room, step into the backyard, step into the bathroom, go grab something from his bedroom. And that's when Caden left. So just keep in mind that that's a possibility here too.
Well, and I would just add that if it's a small house and there's no indication of any activity on any cameras that is suspicious, where would Caden be? They know, you know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
if something untoward happened there, you would see that. One would imagine that if you don't see Caden leaving on his own, you haven't seen someone taking something out of the house or forcing someone out of the house or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I'll say too is I have to commend the police on this. They genuinely seem like they are going and trying their best to figure out what happened.
Yeah.
Unlike in a lot of these cases we've talked to, they're going through, even to the point that they've listened to the psychic. They are trying to find him. So I feel like they're checking things.
And they literally, in one of there was, I think Dateline did an article about an online article about the case, and then there the police were quoted. And I think I'd mentioned it in the podcast where they said, like, we're not even asking at this point. We are begging
Yeah.
for someone to, because they're just completely baffled by this case.
Yeah. Well, Lynn says, to quote Bob, "What changed?" And Lynn says she can only see the new job, and wondering if there could be some kind of connection there. And some other folks asked about the moving job and so forth as well.
Yeah, I mean, all I can tell you is that I agree, and I love that you guys have like listened to this process over the years. But yeah, that's the thing, is what changed in his life. The thing that we know that changed was a few weeks prior to that, he got this new job. I do know the coworkers have been interviewed, sounds like multiple times, by police. But that's something to be thinking about, was what changed. But then the other thing is that, we don't know what we don't know, like what Zach mentioned with a traumatic brain injury. That could be the thing that changed, that we just don't know is the case.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
one of the things that came up too in the conversation with Kara about searching for over the land that belongs to other people and stuff like that, Kate says, don't the police normally ask permission of residents for group searches to notify them that there may be strangers walking on their land? Like, do we know if those attempts were made, or if that was just sort of a, like, let's step back on that because we don't want to get into people being angry or whatever?
I don't know. That was one of the things that I have a list going that I want to use, which I do in every one of these episodes. That after we do this episode, I'll usually contact the parent again. I'll contact Kara and give suggestions. But that was one of the things that, to begin with, it's not as simple as letting you know, hey, people may be walking on your property. They have to either, you can't just go walk. Even the police can't just go walking on someone's property. They have to either have permission to be on the property or have a warrant to be on the property. So I don't know if they've had complications with that or whatever, but it seems like to me that they could, take a block of property owners and try to get permission to search the area. I can't imagine any innocent person would say, no, you can't go searching for a missing person in my property, and then kind of grid search one area at a time.
Sarah was one of the people that had some interesting questions about the moving company, and for Sarah, kind of flagged this idea of sometimes paying the employees in cash and sometimes via a check, and thinking that not going to the place of, oh my gosh, this means something huge, but just kind of questioning that practice and wondering, and based on kind of what Kara was saying about the police and how they were discussing that company, that maybe there was something there that needed to be further explored.
It could be. I mean, that's not an uncommon. It's illegal, but it's not an uncommon practice. I mean, let's face it. A lot of people are always trying to find ways to not have to pay taxes, and that's one way. One way to do it is to pay them in cash. Mm-hmm. And again, all I can really say about that is that, we know that they've been questioned. It seems very much that they're on the police's radar because they were aware of that. And we'll just have to see what turns up with that.
Kristen asks if there's like a partner in the picture, like a romantic partner, a girlfriend, someone in the picture that we know of.
Not that I'm aware of.
And then just kind of from again, Sarah with a sort of a broader view, with a great question. What standards have to be met to obtain a search warrant for a house and or property? And is this complicated by the legal difficulties in declaring an adult to be a missing person? Great question.
It is a good question. One thing, to get any search warrant, you have to have probable cause. Like, you can't just say, hey, I think that maybe something happened here, so I want, like, you have to present to a judge reasons, a probable cause, to give you probable cause to suspect something happened there. I'm sure it does complicate things if you have like an adult that, again, is, they're allowed to run away if they want to. So you have to kind of show, you have to have evidence that a crime was committed, and then have to have probable cause to show why it's important for you to search that space. So I'm sure it does get complicated. Mm-hmm. And Janet, I know we're not through this yet, and I know that you have an out here in 2 minutes, so maybe we should let you go and then let Zach finish off the questions.
That was actually the last question.
Oh, perfect.
So yeah, so that worked out. But and then I want to acknowledge in the chat there's some conversation about marijuana, like potentially playing a role to either exacerbate or, not help a TBI situation, and kind of talking about that particular.
Yeah, and Kristen in the chat made a
use.
great point when we were talking about what changed. She just said his memory changed, and that's a great point and a great way to put that.
Yeah.
And so with that, that's perfect. We're out of questions, so we can wrap up the episode right here. I know I took up the whole first half of it with all of our housekeeping stuff, but that's stuff that needed to be said. I'm talking fast because Janet's got to go. But thank you all for listening. We love you guys. Can't wait to tune in next week. Make sure to tune in on Sunday. At least hear me out for one episode on this non-coverage. And then we'll, who knows what's coming next. We love you guys. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, guys.
All right. Let's stop on a record. Janet, you can go, and Zach and I will talk to the YouTube people.
Sorry for my moment of levity where I choked in the middle of the episode.
Yeah. Well, they'll just think that you were crying, and that's pretty normal.
Yeah.
Part for the course.
I tried
Somehow
so
I
hard
didn't
not to
even
do anything.
notice.
I'm like,
Big shout out. I know you're going to shout out all the super chats, but there have been a ton, and there's a lot of support there. And then also those of you who were talking, you threw out some ideas for potential new episodes. I took photos of the chat. I can't join the chat because I have to connect it to my YouTube, but now it's part of our system upon which we record the whole thing. So I didn't want to let anyone think that I was not acknowledging that. But it would be good to have a more permanent place than just the YouTube chat for those suggestions, just for my sanity, so I don't I don't want to miss any of them.
Maybe someone in the chat will go through the chat and they'll write them all down and then send them to us.
I took snapshots, but yeah.
Good. Go do your thing.
Okay. All right.
We love you.
Bye, everyone. Love you guys.
And I'm going to buzz through these. Thank you guys. I saw a bunch of super chats coming through while we were doing this. I don't like that shouldn't we be down?
Yeah, we got to change it like this, but I don't know how to. You don't have it on there. You don't have you don't have a Zach and
No, well, let me do that one. Can you make it?
New layout.
Oh no.
What?
Okay. What's happening?
Happened? How did you do this?
What happened?
Where did I go?
Now everybody's black. What are you doing over there?
You're fine on my screen.
Stop clicking stuff. Okay, now we're back. Okay, everything's fine, guys.
This is what they pay the big bucks
Everybody,
for.
everything's fine.
I don't know how to do it. I thought I was doing it.
Yeah.
How did you doing it? You got to. I clicked new.
Let's just not worry about it. How about that? I gotta get. Thank you, everybody, for your super chats. Let's start here. We got a super chat from Danielle Townsend. Hiya, I'm in an area that's crappy reception. Hope you can get this through. Can barely watch the stream. Keep killing it. Thank you so much, Danielle. And then we have Jennifer Hill. Thank you so much for the super chats. Adheres to all of us being so empathetic, especially y'all, Bob, Janet, and Zach. Thank you. A lot of these came through during my my housekeeping, but Jennifer, thank you very much for the super chat and the kind words. And Kate says, thank you for the super chat. Says, woohoo! So excited for this change. I ditto Zap. Thank you, Kate. And that was.
I thought you were going to click these.
Well, we're double clicking.
Okay, I'm clicking them now.
No, I'm going to click them from now on.
All right, you click them.
I'm the clicker now.
All right.
Okay. Right here we got Lilius says she echoes Zach's. Thank you. And thank you, Lilius, for your super chat. We appreciate your support. Kristen Hunter, I can only imagine.
That was saying Team Zach. It just is in the green. It's in the same color green as the background, but it says Team Zach.
I don't think it does.
I think it does.
Usually what happens is somebody's first time super chatting, they send it through and then realize they didn't get a message through on it. But thank you. We did see some of your comments, Kristen, already, and thank you very much for the super chat. And Brian Blanchett, thank you so much, Brian. That's very kind of you. Says no question, just supporting the show. And then Devin with the super chat to cover shipping for someone else's shirt. Thank you, Devin. Devin was the one who is getting her shirt hand delivered by Zach himself. So she's now paying for me to ship somebody else's shirt. So that was very kind of you. All right. I think we caught up.
We just got one more.
Unamas. So we got another super chat coming in from, why is this lagging?
I'll blow it up again. Shit.
Valerie Caballero. Is that the one we were talking about last week?
Yeah, I'm not going to try.
Valerie Caballero. Thank you so much, Valerie, for the super chat. She says, just hello. Can't wait for Sunday's episode. Valerie, let me tell you, I can't wait for you to hear Sunday's episode.
2 quick ones. This one's very funny to me.
Okay.
I'll put it on the screen so you can read it. Bob sounds like he's trying to troubleshoot computers and phones with my mom. Stop clicking things.
Listen, the problem isn't me clicking things. The problem is we both have access to the master screen and we're clicking them at the same time. So I'm clicking it and then he's clicking it off and then I'm trying to get it back on and he's clicking.
And then Nicole Johnson says, I see it, Zach. Team Zach.
My computer's lagging really bad. I don't know why that is.
Those are important. Those are very important ones that need to be brought. I keep blowing my screen up on accident.
Zach doesn't understand how he's the one that needs tech support.
I do.
All right. So we'll give a couple more seconds here if anybody has any other super chats. But thank you guys all so much for just for showing up to these YouTube lives. This is fun for me. I mean, we've got important work that we're doing here, but one of the favorite parts of my week is just coming on and chatting with Zach and chatting with Janet and chatting with all of you guys.
We love it.
And it would be a real bummer if you guys weren't here actively chatting with us. So we appreciate that. Super or regular. We like them both.
We enjoy it.
You guys just being here.
I enjoy my weekly paper throw.
Yep. Did you? Oh yeah, they were here.
Yeah, they were here when I threw my paper.
Oh, all right. There's nothing else. I was super late and missed the housekeeping stuff. There's nothing important, Kathy. Just usual housekeeping stuff.
Sweeping.
Jim just submitted a wrongful conviction case on the website. Thanks, Jim. And I'm about to wrap this thing up because I think isn't tonight the night that a new
I think so.
Murders in the building?
Yep, we need to go.
Yeah, it's important.
I have tomorrow off. You know how excited about that?
Yeah, but isn't it past your bills? You go to bed at like 9 o'clock?
Nope, I got 5 minutes.
Before bedtime?
Before bedtime.
Well, you're 30 minutes from home.
That's a problem.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to wrap this thing up. YouTube chat, thank you all very much. I missed the first 20 minutes or so, but I think I got the gist. Hopefully, Lilius, unlike what I told Kathy, it was actually kind of important. So the beginning was make sure you listen to the first 20 minutes of the episode on Friday if you didn't catch it here. And with that, we're going to end it. We love all you guys. Thank you so much for being here every week and showing up and participating and for not at least demonstratively being mad at me for starting a season, making it 6 weeks in and saying this ain't going to work. I appreciate it. But hey, if you are mad, I'm sure if you go on Twitter, there's plenty of people who I have blocked that are tweeting all about what an asshole I am. So you can go over there and check those people out.
Told you so.
Mm-hmm. All right. Bye, guys. Ciao. Bellissimi. I don't know what bellissima. Bellissimi?
What the fuck does that mean?
Well, ciao is, ciao.
Ciao.
Yeah. Sure missed it somewhere. But was there a reason the lives are no longer posted?
They always do that. They come down for about a month. The new lives come down for a month and then they go back up.
Yeah, we got to get through. They got to air as just audio for a period of time before I'm allowed to put the YouTube videos back up. But I think I'm at the beginning of this season. I haven't done any yet this season. I think I'm to the place where I can put up like at least the first 1 or 2 of this season. So I'll do that. All right, bye guys. Love you. Bye. And we're gonna. Can I just edit this and then turn that off? Post was great. Delete it. Remove this. I think I'm still streaming while I'm trying to figure this out. Post was created on.
Yeah, it still looks like